Debates about fixing anti poverty programs usually focus on policy levers in Washington, D.C. But what if there's actually a tremendous untapped resource that is essential to pushing opportunity to all families striving for the American dream, and it's currently being ignored?
They may be working 20 hours a week, making $17 an hour, but if they worked 21 hours or got a raise, they might lose thousands of dollars worth of benefits.
It cuts off that benefit so fast that it's pointless for them to make more money. It's a net loss.
On this episode, we profiled the new Upward Mobility Act in Congress and talked with the Senate and House sponsors of the bill that's going to help restore states as the lead innovators in social welfare reform. This is Defending Ideas. Defending Ideas is a weekly podcast produced by Sutherland Institute. On this show, we are committed to renewing the principles of common sense conservatism, making you a better champion of sound ideas. Welcome back to another episode of Defending Ideas. I'm your host, Nic Dunn, and this week we're talking about solutions to one of the biggest issues we've covered a lot on this show, which is the problem of work disincentives in the form of benefit cliffs in our social welfare system. We've talked about data, we've heard stories, and on this episode, I'm really excited to talk about a concrete solution that can help us move towards better comprehensive reform of our safety net to encourage work and family formation and true upward mobility. To help us have this conversation, I'm very excited to welcome into our virtual studio U.S. Senator Jon Husted from the state of Ohio. Senator Husted, welcome to Defending Ideas.
Great to be with you.
Senator, I'm grateful for your time and your work on this issue because you have a bill called the Upward Mobility Act that's really kind of tailored to helping to fix this problem. And I would describe it as sort of clearing the path for families who feel stuck in poverty, who want to get off of government programs and enjoy the benefits of work-based self-reliance in our free enterprise system. So maybe can we start there? Can you go ahead and give us a brief overview of the Upward Mobility Act? What does it do?
Well, I think the most important question, is before I review it is why? Why do we need it? Because we have something called the benefits cliff. And what happens is you have many families, a single parent with two children, they may be working 20 hours a week, making $17 an hour. But if they worked 21 hours or got a raise, they might lose thousands of dollars worth of benefits. What are those benefits? Things like housing assistance, childcare assistance, SNAP benefits, things that are part of the 8 programs that we're really targeting here, these poverty programs. And so it really is a disincentive to work. It's a trap, as we call it, because you fall off the cliff. And so people make rational decisions. If I'm going to work more then and get less, then what do people do in their microeconomic decisions? They stay on government benefits and they don't work more because they have to take care of themselves. They're making a rational choice given their situation. So in the Upward Mobility Act, we will combine the basically 8 poverty programs that we have, put them in a unified funding stream, give 5 states the ability to build a pilot program that would help people gradually wean themselves off of government benefits as they earn more. The scenario that I would like to describe. That family member that I talked to you about, they're working 20 hours a week. Well, what would help them get a job working 40 hours a week? Get them to that point where they might get health care from their employer, where they might get a 401k retirement plan, and then gradually reduce benefits. Because understand, people living in this is not an easy thing. If you're in poverty, you have no savings. So that means you don't have a down payment for an apartment necessarily. You don't have a car. You don't have some of the essentials that you need. So give them time to build some savings. Give them time to do that. And then you can gradually reduce benefits over time. And the way it's structured is the money goes to the states. We're not trying to do this on cheap. We're not trying to cut benefits. Any savings, though, that the state would accrue as a result of that can then be used for the next individual that you're trying to get off poverty. And if we can get 1 out of every 10 people in the country to do what I just described, it would be the equivalent of adding 1.5 to 3 million people to the workforce. So it's good for employers who need a workforce. It's good for the individual, and it's good for the culture of our nation, where we reinstill the idea of work and upward mobility, self-sufficiency, and restoring the American dream for many people who have been trapped and kept out of it.
Senator, there's a couple key data points I think reinforce what you're saying when you talk about the benefit cliff as being a very real work disincentive. Here at Sutherland Institute in Utah, we surveyed statewide current or recent safety net participants in a report that we released in 2024 that basically asked, have you ever turned down a job opportunity of some form because you're worried about a benefit cliff? And our survey data showed that overall, about 43% of the safety net population had turned down some kind of economic opportunity because they were worried about a benefit cliff. So even in Utah, with the highest upward mobility in the nation, one of the strongest economies in the nation, 43% had said no to something because they were worried about a benefit cliff. And that's really acutely in, about 1 in 5 said they worked fewer hours. About 13% said they actually turned down an offer of a new job. And so it really kind of underscores the fact that there is a real disincentive effect in our current system. And I want to pinpoint something you said, because when you talk about what you envision the Upward Mobility Act doing, why is it important for states to have this kind of flexibility? What kind of things do you envision a state doing, a state like Ohio, a state like Utah, under the Upward Mobility Act? What could we do to fix this?
I come at this from a life of experience of trying to fix it, right? I started out working in county government. I worked in state government. I was the lieutenant governor. I was in charge of workforce issues. And I kept bumping into this problem wherever I would go. You talk to people living in poverty and you say, well, why don't you work more? It's like, well, because of the benefit cliff, okay? You talk to an employer, anyone who hires entry-level people, whether it's in the hospitality industry, the manufacturing industry, they'll all raise their hands. They'll say, how many employers have offered somebody a job and they said no because of the benefit cliff? And every hand goes up. Like, everybody knows about this problem that's existed in our poverty system for 50 years. But it's amazing to me why no one's ever done anything about it. And when you ask that question, it's because poverty programs are spread out all across government, and you have to put them all together because every person in poverty isn't there for the same reason. And they may piece a life together based on a little bit of assistance from each one of these programs. And so you have to give that unified funding stream to tailor a program for every individual, because every individual's needs are different. And people living in poverty are just not very, they're not very experienced at navigating the real world, right? I remember talking to one young lady who said, well, I don't really know how money works at a grocery store, because she grew up and has lived all of her adult life using SNAP cards to buy groceries. And so you literally have to teach people how to budget, how to do all these things. So there's some casework involved with this too, but the governors need flexibility. The caseworkers need flexibility in these funding streams to design pathways out of poverty. I want to share with you, though, one very insidious aspect of how the poverty trap works that I don't think a lot of people probably know, because I was a big advocate for career technical education, right? Helping young people in high school become welders, auto body mechanics, CNC machinists, whatever, to take a career skill, get a work experience in high school, a certification, and then go to work, right? But I was at a high school in rural Ohio, low-income county, and the principal said to me, you understand that even the kids who get these skills, if they come from poor families, they can't go get a job. And I said, explain. And he said, yeah, I got kids that want to go be welders. They can't get a pre-apprenticeship or a work-based experience because any income they get counts against their family. So that means their younger brother or sister might not get food assistance. Their mom might lose her healthcare assistance, whatever it might be. Oh my gosh, can you believe that? I mean, that's what we do to people. And then we wonder why kids who graduate high school aren't ready for a career, because we literally locked them out of developing the skills and having the pathway to do this. So that's how that's just a few examples, real world examples of how this system is broken, and how if we gave the money to the states, let them construct programs for each individual situation, that we can add more people to the workforce, give them a hope for a better future.
Senator, it seems that there are a few key themes that this ties together. Obviously, I really love that this is intended to be state-led, essentially saying, maybe the way I would interpret it, and correct me if this is wrong or add to it, essentially a way of saying, look, in Congress, we actually don't necessarily need or want, or maybe Congress just isn't well suited to cross-program comprehensive reform to the social welfare system, because by some estimates, it's well over 80 programs approaching $1.5 trillion a year, reporting through multiple federal agencies, multiple congressional committees. And so the idea of sort of going to that system on the national level and saying, be really innovative and creative with cross-program comprehensive reform is just really tough for a number of reasons. But if we can sort of angle it back to the states and say at the state level, states can be a lot more responsive to the unique needs of their residents trying to get out of poverty. And also it leans into this principle of federalism that at the state level, they can be equipped to be innovative, be creative, try new ideas at the state level. And I love that federalism angle. I want to ask you if there's a way that can become sort of a broad consensus bipartisan principle. That's the way I read it. What are your thoughts?
So there is no way for the federal government to design a solution for every individual. You can't do it. You have to have flexibility, and you have to trust that governors care about their states, that the people who run, the delivery system in their states cares about helping individuals. Again, we're not talking about cutting anyone. We're talking about giving them the ability to earn more so they don't have the dependence. But that might, in one individual's case, it might be 1 month that they need an extension of benefits. And for others, it might be 6 months because they just have a more complicated situation. And you have to trust that governors are going to design a program to be able to do this. Look, it doesn't work when you do it at the federal level. It's 50 years this has been failing our nation because we lack the ability to trust. And I think that if you give this unified funding stream to governors and you hold them accountable based on results, like we can measure the results. This is an easily measurable system to find out whether we're helping people or we're not helping people. And then you judge it. It's a 5-year pilot program. Then you judge it based on those results. And then we learn. Because you know what? I've been working on this issue for 30 years. Okay. I don't know everything. Like I can't possibly know everything. You have to trust that the caseworkers who care about these people are going to do it. You have to trust that employers are going to design systems that will help them hire more people and the individual get ahead. Because look, every employer wants their employees to be successful because turnover is a hard thing on employers, right? They want to have reliable employees who are successful at their businesses. And when you trust the states to do this in collaboration with your local not-for-profit partners and your private sector partners, then you have a chance to solve a complicated problem.
Senator, last question in the couple of minutes that we have left. I want to ask you about kind of what's next, meaning if you were to distill all this down to one key message to governors and legislators at the state level, to your colleagues in the Senate and the House at the congressional level, and also kind of what's next for the bill, what's kind of the key message to those groups, and where do we go from here for the Upward Mobility Act?
If you want a solution for people who've been trapped in poverty, the Upward Mobility Act is their way out and their way up. And I just say to my colleagues, because if you want to help, if this the buzzword today, let's face it, it's affordability, right? There's nothing that the members of Congress can do to help the lowest income earners in this country more than giving them the flexibility that's available in the Upward Mobility Act to help them earn more, build some savings, get access to the benefits that private employment provide, and help them become part of the middle class. There's nothing. Find one thing of a bill that's pending in Congress that helps individuals who are lowest income earners get ahead more than this, and I'll vote for it. But this is the bill that gives us a chance to end the poverty trap.
Well, Senator, I love that you're focusing on the ultimate goal of a work-based self-reliance, so our fellow Americans who feel stuck in poverty can enjoy the full blessings of the free enterprise system that we have. This seems like a really important step forward to accomplishing that. Again, the bill is the Upward Mobility Act. We'll include links to the various materials from your office in the show notes. And of course, we'll be involved in this discussion as it moves forward. Senator Jon Husted from Ohio, thanks so much for being with us on Defending Ideas.
Thanks for the opportunity to be with you, and keep the dialogue going on this. It's really important.
Thank you, Senator. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to continue this conversation about this important legislation in Congress. This is Defending Ideas. We'll be right back.
For a deeper dive into the issues you care about, read Sutherland Institute's official blog, Insights and Takeaways. You'll gain deep insights from policy experts and relevant takeaways voters need to know. Visit sutherlandinstitute.org.
Welcome back to Defending Ideas. I'm Nic Dunn. Joining us now in the virtual studio to continue this conversation is Utah Congressman Blake Moore. Congressman, thanks so much for being with us on Defending Ideas.
You bet. Thanks for having me on, Nick.
Congressman, I'm excited about this conversation because we have talked a lot in recent years, really, about the need for social welfare reform. We've talked a lot about benefit cliffs and how the system can sometimes disincentivize folks from wanting to work more and earn more and kind of climb up the economic ladder. The Upward Mobility Act is one of those things that I view as a tool that can help right that ship, but in a way that leverages the principle of federalism. So I'm really excited about it. I wanted to give you a chance to kind of talk through it from your perspective, and maybe first just give us an overview of what you hope the bill will accomplish and why you think it's important.
Yeah, absolutely. We've had numerous conversations about this, and every time I actually interact with you and your team, this is one of the things that we align and really try to push. The fact that we were able to get it into legislation is a big step, and I'm thrilled to be a part of it. So thanks for you and your team for your work. But simply put, we can't disincentivize people from getting themselves out of a tough poverty situation. And right now, that's what our social programs do. And in some cases, they're even the way that they're designed, whether it's intended. I want to believe that it's not intended, but I believe they are designed to do that. If you stabilize yourself, you start to make higher wages, you reach a point where all of a sudden the benefit that you've been getting to help stabilize yourself is cut off, so it doesn't incentivize you to make more money. It's a simple math problem, and what this bill is trying to do is flatten out that curve so we can create more self-sufficiency, allow states who are better at implementing these programs than a broad, wide federal program, a little more autonomy than they currently have to be able to, get people to truly lift themselves up out of poverty. Folks on the right and the left say this is not a handout; it's a hand up, right? And they want to help people get there. But the program immediately, once they start to see some success and some progress, it cuts off that benefit so fast that it's pointless for them to make more money. It's a net loss unless they were to power through that. And there's no reason to have to power through it. We just got to flatten out that curve. As someone progresses, you can reduce their benefit, but if you do it so abruptly, it disincentivizes them from doing it themselves.
Congressman, one of the things that stands out to me so much about this particular way of approaching social welfare reform and benefit cliffs is this, especially in your role representing Utah in Congress and in a lot of the conversations that we've been in back in Washington and other parts of the country, it's natural, obviously, to sort of fixate a lot of these conversations on Washington, D.C. and on Congress. And there's a lot of policy debate and policy reports and proposals that come out asking Congress to do various things on a whole range of issues. The reason that I like this, that I'd love to kind of hear your perspective on, is that it sort of recognizes that creative policymaking can be a challenge at the congressional level anyway, but especially with this particular issue, because we have so many different federal programs that report to different federal agencies, report up through different congressional committees, that there's actually kind of a beauty in the simplicity of we have this untapped potential of state innovation. 50 different states, though this bill starts small at first, but so many different states that can be creative problem solvers. We don't have to centralize this creative innovation in Washington. We can leverage the states. I view that as an asset. How do you see that impacting this debate moving forward?
Yeah, and just so we articulate what the bill actually does is it'll take 10 different types of anti-poverty social welfare programs and it buckets them into one. So the state doesn't have to deal with so many loopholes and requirements for an individual program. It allows for 5 states to run a pilot program to be able to have some lessons learned that we can share back with my colleagues and others, other states across the country to say, hey, look, you've got individuals on TANF, temporary assistance for needy families. You've got them on SNAP, supplemental and nutritional programs, and a handful of others, okay? We're going to allow the state to figure out how the individual gets those resources, and we're going to let the states figure out how to help motivate that individual to continue on in their progression and their self-sufficiency track, and use the programs to the benefit, right? So we just want to be able to learn from this and see how those can be applied in other areas. Have far more confidence in responsible state legislators, legislatures, governors, teams, administrations across the country on saying, hey, Utah's got unique needs, right? We're a different state than Massachusetts, and we have different workforce. And so we want to be able to tailor these types of things so individuals can, get the tailored approach to their progress together. It should be something we should all come together. We're actually saying, hey, let them keep more of their benefit on the front end. So as they progress, they're able to not have a particular blockage or glass ceiling, if you will, and move past that so they can actually truly obtain self-sufficiency.
Congressman, there's a resolution that passed out of the Utah legislature recently that I think helps lay some foundation for this issue. The resolution, we'll include the link to our show notes. It's SCR 7, and we'll link to that. The resolution says some things that I think help provide the foundation. And in particular, I want to read this brief excerpt and sort of tie it back to what you're saying, that states are often better equipped to run these kinds of programs, to be creative. The resolution says, therefore be it resolved that the legislature of the state of Utah, the governor concurring therein, urges the President of the United States and Congress to grant additional flexibility and autonomy to states to experiment with innovative pilot programs and other reforms to improve social safety net programs by addressing any existing work disincentives in a way that protects budget neutrality, ensures fiscal responsibility, and seeks better outcomes. It's sort of the Utah state legislature saying in a different way what you said, that we actually think we can gain a lot of ground on the state level by making it easier for folks to get out of poverty, because we just want to smooth their path. By and large, these are families that don't want to stay on these programs. They want to work and become self-sufficient through work. And so as you have been working on this and start talking with your colleagues about it, is that a compelling message? Is there anything else that we need to bring to the table? Ideally for this to even be bipartisan, because this is the kind of thing that I would assume could have a lot of bipartisan support.
Well, I'll just respond with 2 simple concepts here. And I think a lot of the work that Sutherland has done is you're smart on this policy, and it's not necessarily a Utah-based policy, but because of the connection that you have to Utah and the interaction you have with Utah lawmakers, whether they be federal or state, we clearly have attention on this issue. And so, yeah, there's resolutions run, hey, we would support this type of work being done at the federal level. I've been contacted from other state legislators that are really excited about this, and they want to do it. So if we can be successful, I would hope that Utah was one of the pilot programs. It would be something where we would shine. And so I commend Sutherland for their work to educate folks on this, and then interact with many of the state leaders. But you're exactly right. We just need a chance to have some thoughtful, simplified approach that actually focuses on the end result, the impact of the deal, and not the individual sort of activities associated with it. We need to be thinking farther down the value chain, or the theory of change on. We can get caught up in the minutia of, okay, this program has X dollars. If they get a pay increase, then they don't need as much of this, so we drop it quickly. No, let the states take everything into consideration, watch their trajectory, flatten out that curve, and see people on the other end of it actually thriving in life, as opposed to just being kind of stuck in these. If you're going to lose benefits equal to or worse than your current situation, why do you work harder? Why do you take that extra responsibility at your job to increase your wage or income? Like, we're all humans here. We're typically inspired and driven by improvements, right? We work harder because we can accomplish more. And this is the way these programs are set up, probably since the LBJ years, right? Probably since the 60s, when they had really good intention on some of this stuff. It just flat out doesn't work. And it just makes it so people are stuck in this rut. And, unless they have truly good, amazing mentorship, or see a bigger, vision for what they want to do, the particulars don't work out. And if we can't get over the particulars, people aren't going to be incentivized to go and, guess what? Maybe even get a second job that they can fit into their schedule. Maybe they need to be able to get over that hump, that cliff, if you will. And this is a way to hopefully show that there's better ways to do it. We've got to give the states some flexibility here in a responsible way, and then take a look at the results.
Congressman, one of the really compelling aspects of this in my mind is, as you said, if you go back to the creation of these programs in the 60s and the war on poverty, I think one of the most important critiques of the current system is that it wasn't really designed. The sort of pop culture analogy I use all the time is in the Harry Potter book series. If folks remember, the Weasley family's house, when it's described in the book, it's sort of held up in all these different ways, and odd buildings and rooms and things like that. And basically it says that it's only standing because of magic, but it's not really designed in a way that's coherent. That's kind of like our modern social safety net. And this is an opportunity for states to, again, within guardrails. And one of the best guardrails is this is intended to be deficit neutral. So this isn't just about tossing more money onto an existing system or just layering on more programs. It's about better utilization of the taxpayer dollars we already have in these programs to try and come up with a better way of helping people out of poverty and back on their feet. And that's the kind of thing that I hope is compelling. And maybe to round out the conversation, maybe a last question or so for you is, if you were speaking about this issue or this bill to your colleagues in Washington, to governors around the country, to state legislators around the country, what do you see as the most compelling message for why this is necessary right now?
Excellent. And thank you for not making me add another science fiction or fantasy type of example. You've met my limit of Harry Potter, but it is exactly right. Too many things are based on magic, but it's actually not magic. In our federal system, it's not magic. It's it's run on deficits. So the fact that our deficits of nearly, this year was down significantly, thankfully. So calendar year 2025 was down over $360 billion from the year over year, but we're still running north of $1.6 trillion deficits. And that's the magic that it is. We can continue to borrow and issue treasuries because we're still the safest place for an investment. But year over year deficits approaching $2 trillion, we will not have that magic, that Weasley magic, if you will, that can prop this system up. And I say this to people all the time when I'm back home and they're mad that, we would do a work requirement in Medicaid for the overall strength of Medicaid to continue on, because in 10 years, if we can't continue on and sell treasuries to investors, and this is not the preferred element of the safest investment across the world, or we lose our currency reserve, the US dollar loses the reserve status, that magic that you mentioned is no longer. The only magic we have right now is that we can issue treasuries. And if we are no longer able to issue treasuries, guess what? We only bring in $5.5 trillion for $7.2 trillion of expenses. Well, what are some of the first things to go? Is it going to be Social Security or is it going to be SNAP? I can tell you right now that Congress, if they had to choose between Social Security, Medicare, Defense, and Medicaid, that SNAP and TANF would be the ones that we would be worried about. So we're able to borrow to make these programs exist. That's the urgency we have here. And so if we can't do something like make sure the programs do the intended design to actually get people out of poverty, then we can just continue to rely on this magic. So I love that definition of it. And I would literally put it into, we can continue to rely on the fortunate nature of the way we issue treasuries and be able to borrow that money year over year. But at some point that runs dry. We know that about basic economics. And we can't just continue to operate these programs when they don't achieve their intended consequences. Otherwise, they're gone. And if we can't do them smarter and get more people off of the programs the way they're intended, then that's the urgency. We need folks to be supported, to have a safety net, but to not keep them in that desperate situation and help them rise out of it.
Congressman, maybe one last thought and question as we wrap up here, and I think you've captured it well, that when we approach this issue from the Sutherland Institute standpoint, it really is that the vision of the social safety net should be, we're going to help you out temporarily while we get you back on your feet into work-based self-reliance. I think the vast majority of Americans would agree with that, but they may not realize that the current design of the system is often not very conducive to that goal. And again, this is sort of it's a structural reform effort to accomplish that kind of outcome we want for these families. And in my mind, maybe the most compelling message at the end of the day is that, my wife and I, we have 2 little boys. If I believed that me working harder and earning more did not make my family better off, or maybe even made my family worse off, I don't know how I would deal with that. That would be incredibly debilitating. But yeah, that's what a lot of families face today. That's what we're trying to fix with this. So maybe last question, what's next for the bill? Where does it go from here? And if folks are listening to this thinking, hey, I like this, I want to support it, what is the message that they need to carry with them to build a consensus base for this kind of idea?
Yeah, absolutely. It's very simple. We've introduced the bill. We want to get it through committee. If we can get it through committee, we've got significant attention on it by that point. It gets reintroduced in the 120th Congress next cycle. Already having a track record of getting ground, then you can kind of push it farther. I would think that you get 5 good states. I would love it to be red and blue states, a conglomerate of both to kind of come in, so this stays very bipartisan. On its head, it should be one of the most bipartisan concepts ever. We're not going to take away welfare benefits as quickly as we currently are. It should be absolutely accepted by everybody. And if they understood truly, and if they were honest with themselves, they would understand there's a good desired goal here. We need more co-sponsorship of it. And one of the big problems is it's kind of referred to so many different committees because there's multiple. Like I said, there's 10 anti-poverty programs that exist on here. They hit different areas, whether it be financial services or ag or ways and means. So there's a lot of committees that it hits. That'll be a bit of a roadblock because sometimes it gets a little less focused, and it's kind of like, 7 other committees got to sign off on it. So that's a job for us to try to really drive it. But so there's roadblocks, but they're just more so administrative. I don't think the concept is something that we could get behind. And if it truly is, we truly make this a deficit neutral project, we should be able to move it. But moving anything in Congress is a massive Herculean effort. But we're gonna give it a more than a college try and see if we can rally it. Getting Democrat voices on this would be very important. I know there's thoughtful side on my colleagues' point that are bringing this up automatically. When they find out I already have a bill, they're very excited about it. So that's the game. That's the way we play this going forward.
Well, we will continue to watch and be engaged as this issue moves forward. It's one of the important steps forward as far as some policy discussion of how we improve our social welfare system in this country and make the American dream within reach for more of our fellow American families. So, Congressman Blake Moore, thanks so much for sharing this with us and joining us on Defending Ideas this week.
Thank you, Nick.
We're going to take a quick break before we leave you with some final talking points. This is Defending Ideas. We'll be right back.
Sometimes it's hard to keep up with the latest policy debate that affects your life. The solution? Subscribe to Sutherland Institute's weekly newsletter, where you'll find in-depth insights from seasoned policy experts, compelling multimedia, and advance notice of special events. Visit sutherlandinstitute.org.
Welcome back. I'm very grateful to Senator Husted and Representative Moore for sharing their views on the Upward Mobility Act. The American dream rests on a simple promise. If you work hard, your family should be better off. But for far too many Americans trying to escape poverty, that promise feels broken. Today's welfare system often punishes progress. Families who earn more can suddenly lose large amounts of assistance through what are known as benefit cliffs, where higher earnings leave them financially worse off or stuck in the same place. The Atlanta Fed found that a single parent in Washington, D.C. could increase their earnings from $11,000 to $65,000 a year and see virtually no financial gain because of benefit cliffs. Sutherland Institute research found that 43% of Utah's safety net population has taken steps to limit their earnings out of fear of triggering those cliffs. A system meant to help families escape poverty should never penalize them for trying. That's why Senator Jon Husted and Congressman Blake Moore introduced the Upward Mobility Act. It's legislation that would allow a small group of states to test innovative reforms across programs that remove work disincentives and restore upward mobility. America can still be the land of opportunity if we empower states to act as innovators to remove work disincentives, promote upward mobility, and bring the American dream within reach. Well, that's it for this episode of Defending Ideas. If you enjoyed the discussion, please visit defendingideas.org, where you can access previous episodes and watch or listen on your favorite platform. Don't forget to subscribe to Defending Ideas on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you like to get your shows. And please share this episode with a friend, family member, or coworker who may find it valuable. Lastly, if you want to support the broad work of Sutherland Institute, if you want more conversations like this, please make a contribution at sutherlandinstitute.org/donate. Thanks again for joining us on Defending Ideas. From the Sutherland Institute in Salt Lake City, I'm Nic Dunn. We'll see you next time.